Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Calvin, We the Species. And this is a little sizzle reel to tell you all I'm with Nancy Ryan. And it's best if I kind of spit out here the title of this interview, which has been in the making for a long, long time. Nancy knows what I'm talking about. But this is Nancy Ryan, a singer-songwriter. She's a record producer. She's a radio show host of Ryan Rocks It, Asbury Park Style, which is 9 years old today. And she's also an actor and a humanitarian and even an ecologist. And Nancy and I met 10 years ago, almost. And Nancy kind of took me under her wing and taught me about the music world here as I was a new journalist. And we've had this wonderful, special friendship that has endured for 10 years. And I'm so thrilled to welcome you, Nancy, to this. It's kind of like returning the favor because you've interviewed me.
Much.
So just do a quick little bio of yourself, and then we'll kind of jump into some questions.
Okay, awesome. Well, we have done this. We have done this before, where I've interviewed you before, and you've interviewed me before. I believe at Hamilton Radio. Well, okay, I'll give a quick bio of me. Yeah, I grew up in Asbury Park. I was thinking about this last night, how I lived a few blocks up from the Wonder Bar, and we lived right behind a big old house across from Sunset Lake. And I was looking at some old pictures of me and the various dogs, stray dogs that we had, and just reminiscing about my childhood and growing up there and how much I loved it. And then we lived on, like I said, Fifth Avenue, right where that first bridge is. When you get up so you go up a few blocks from the Wonder Bar. So I was within walking distance of the boardwalk, and I was always, oh my God, all over Asbury Park. And then we moved to 707 6th Avenue, which is up on Main Street and closer to the other bridge that goes over into Allenhurst. And so we lived there for quite a while. And then my father, as he was gaining in his, he built boats, my dad, for 13 years, and they were called Ryan Skiffs. So every year in Convention Hall, my father would be in the boat show, his boats, and they were beautiful. And so I'm your typical, I'm a Irish, German, Austrian, Irish Catholic girl from Asbury Park, New Jersey. And there are a total of 8 of us. There are 4 girls and 4 boys, and I always say that I'm the eldest, which, well, my younger sister, because there was 10 years between another girl, she always gets a little irritated. She'll go, I don't know why you have to always say that, Nancy. And I go, well, because it's true. And I just heard on TV the other night, I was watching a show, I love podcasts, and it was a talk show of some kind. And someone said, when if the firstborn is a male, which there was, which was Billy Ryan, the guitar man, my beloved brother, who passed away from COVID, January 24th, 2021. We just had an amazing, they had the Billy Ryan musical memorial for him out at his daughter's farm.
Billy was good friends with Bruce Springsteen.
Yes,
correct?
he was. He played with Bruce. The last photos I have of him playing with Bruce, he played with him every time they did. My brother was one of the original upstage players. So he knew Bruce. He was 5 years older than Bruce. So Bruce was very interested in Billy to be in the band. But my brother was having a second child or first child or whatever. I don't really remember. But he also was building a sheetrock business of his own. And he chose his marriage and family over music. And then 2 years later, when his I guess it was his second daughter was old enough, then he went on tour with James Cotton Blues Band as lead guitarist for about 2 years. Then he went on tour with one of my very close friends, Clarence Clemens, who I met in my brother's kitchen when I was very young. We were I was in my 30s. Clarence had a few years on me, But I walked in and there he was, the biggest day. And oh my God, I'll never forget that night. And we became instant friends and we were friends for life. So I saw him when I could. We saw each other in Maui, and I just have a lot of currents. I'm writing a book too, so all this stuff will be in my book. Unfortunately, in those days, people weren't clicking pictures everywhere. The only people that were taking pictures were the newspaper people, paparazzi. So unfortunately, I do have some photographs, but anyway, from the newspapers of my brother. And
Can we just go
anyway,
back to
me? Yeah, let's get back.
let's go back to your brother Billy, because
okay.
Billy helped you on your road into the music world, correct?
Yeah, big time, because I remember, well, we moved over to Allenhurst, and my brother was about 13, and he was 2 years older than me rather, and he was playing guitar since he was like maybe 12 or 13, and he would be down the cellar and playing guitar and having other musicians coming in and coming out. They'd come around the back and go in down the cellar, and I would be sitting. You go down from our kitchen, you go down one little flight and then another little flight the other way to our cellar. So I would be sitting up at the top of the stairs and just listening to all of the music going on. And I had also been singing since I was in, I was probably started singing in 5th grade at Holy Spirit Grammar School. So I went to grammar school, Holy Spirit. Actually, Vinnie Lopez went to Holy Spirit too. But
Wow.
yeah, so and I went there from kindergarten through 8th grade. Then my father forced me to go to Stardust Academy, but in Long Branch I'd have to take the train up there. But I begged out of that as a sophomore and went to Asbury. But getting back to my brother Billy, yeah, he was a big influence on my music. But my mother was even more of an influence because my mother was a singer and an actress, in addition to a baby maker. She was an awesome baby maker and an awesome housekeeper and a tailor. Even with all those children, my mother managed, and she didn't have to. She didn't have to work. She had enough work to do in the house. And I was the oldest daughter, so I'm the Cinderella. So there was 10 years between any more girls. So I had to help do my mother would never let me wash the dishes. I guess she thought I was going to cut myself or something. And we had these huge dinners every single night. So my mother was a great cook, and I thank her for that. But so my mother was playing constantly all of this music. Like she had an album collection like you couldn't believe. She had everything from Broadway, Barbara Streisand. She had jazz, Nancy Wilson. She had oh my gosh, she had all of the big shows like a West Side Story. She had Victory at Sea for my father because my father was of course, an ocean guy, and he loved Jacques Cousteau. That's the only thing we could watch on TV when he was home, if it was on, and ocean picture, things about that. But my mother was always listening to music and singing, and so was her sister, my Aunt Jean. And since my Aunt Jean only had one child, a son, and couldn't have any more children, my Aunt Jean would pick me up sometimes for weekends and bring us to Point Pleasant. My Aunt Jean, she was like, my mother was kind of serious type, but my Aunt Jean was like, and my mother, I have pictures of my mother and my aunt. They were in vaudeville, and they were singers and dancers. And so it was just in their blood, the music was just in them. And so my Aunt Jean would pick me up, and she would start driving the car from Allenhurst to Point Pleasant, and she would start singing, when the red robin goes bob, bob, bobbing along. And so I learned all these songs from my aunt, these really old time songs. And she was such a positive person. And so I was looking at pictures of me with my cousin Bobby, who was like 7 years younger than me. So I have pictures of me with him, and it's been a very nostalgic time for me, having my brother pass, and my other brother, my Irish twin brother, passed 10 years ago in January 27th, he died. And that was devastating, and really devastating to me. And of course, losing my brother Billy was just as devastating. And but it is part of life, death. And I'm going through that grieving period. And I think that my brother Billy is more with me now than he was when he was on Earth. He was for people who knew my brother, he was so talented, and so was my brother Bobby. He was a fabulous guitar player and a singer and a songwriter, but he was extremely shy.
Is Billy recognized on that big thing in front of
yes, of course,
on Convention Hall in Asbury Park?
Yes, it's the monument right outside the parish.
He's recognized on the monument, the sound of Asbury Park.
Billy was they had two sounds of Asbury Park, and Billy was the featured artist of both of them. So Gary Talent and all these other musicians flew in from all over the country to play with my brother Billy at the Stone Pony. And so on the monument, it says this. It says Johnny Shaw, who was the founder of the Jaywalkers, and they toured and opened for bands like Chicago, and I don't know exactly who the bands were, but big bands. And then it says Billy Ryan, and then it says Bruce Springsteen.
Wow.
So, wow. And then it goes on and on and on. And I said, there better be room on that thing for me. I don't care if I'm 100 years old when I get recognized for my abilities as a singer-songwriter. But anyway.
Yeah. So I have a burning question.
Yes.
Even though I've known you a long time, I'm not sure I know the answer. But you're growing up and you're learning music from Billy, and all of a sudden one day you pick up and you leave and you go to California.
Well, yeah,
for a long time.
Yes, I did. And I was like, I was just talking to a very old friend of mine. I have to mention him. And I was friends with him since I was 18 years old. And his name was Steve Lusardi. So, and getting back to my mother sang on WJLK. My father would take her to all the piano bars and my mother would sing. And then she, actually, after having all those children, my mother went to college, and she not only graduated from Monmouth University, but she got her master's degree, and she was going for her doctorate. Wow. My mother was like just extremely intelligent and beautiful. She was tall. Oh my God, my mother was like almost 5'9", 5'8.5". I'm a shrimp. I'm the shrimp of the family. But getting back to the music, my mother got into doing again what she loved. She sang in the choir at St. Mary's Church her entire life, never missed a Sunday at church. So that's, I just have to say, my parents, both of my parents were so creative in so many ways, and they gave all of their children like snippets of their creativity. And my father would, I just have so many memories. That's why I'm writing a book. I have wonderful memories of growing up in Asbury Park. So I would go, though, I followed my mother's footsteps. And I had a friend, Steve Lusardi, who was in a band called the Dynamic Duo. And so he was the B3 organ player. And he's on my album, by the way. And they call him the maestro because he came in with all the written music and handed it out to all the greatest musicians. I had John Harrington was my lead guitarist from Steely Dan on that album because my brother was up in Vermont and couldn't come down, and it was winter time. And anyway, getting back to the music thing, I would go with my girlfriend, go to all the piano bars and sing. And I sang at the Pillow Talk in Asbury Park, and I sang at Christie's on Highway 35 at the restaurants. I sang at a club my girlfriend's father owned a club in Long Branch. So I was getting a real name for myself even at 18 as a singer and an entertainer. So I would do like the classics, sing the classics. I did not sing original material when I sang out at the piano bars. But yeah, so I was here through my, until I was 32 years old. And my sister-in-law's brother, Ray, would come home for Christmas and he said to me, Nancy, and I was single. And I have a story about that. I'm not going to go into that. It will be in my book. I have a lot of, I am going to do a tell-all book. So I'll change the names to protect the guilty, you know what I mean? And I don't feel guilty for anything I've done in my life anyway, but other people might, you know, not want that known about them. So I'll have to change their names, whatever they did with me or with anybody, whatever. So getting back to leaving, Ray says, Nancy, you know, you're single, you're young. Are you going to spend the rest of your life in New Jersey? Because he had moved years before that. And he had moved to San Diego. He said, you can come out anytime you want and stay with me as long as you want and reestablish yourself. So I thought about it for a little while. And right after the Red Bank Rockers had their grand opening on New Year's Eve in January, it took me another January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October. 9 months later, after that, I moved to San Diego. And I was living in Asbury Park in a beautiful carriage house. The whole top of the carriage house I had, and it was just great. And I had it all decorated in all antiques. And I gave my parents all my antiques for their house in Allenhurst to keep for me and some of my brothers, and over the years took some things for their places, but I didn't care. I got them back when I moved back. But my brother Billy took me to the airport. I sent my daughter Nina, my daughter Michelle stayed here in New Jersey and went to high school here, went to college here. And my youngest daughter, there's 5 years between them, my youngest, well, anyway, that's a long story. It's a little bit complicated. But my youngest daughter went with her father. I was divorced. I divorced my childhood sweetheart. Sometimes I think that was a mistake, but there's no looking back. I wouldn't be where I am today if I had followed that path. So my brother Billy brought me to Newark Airport. I had a one-way ticket. I had a huge suitcase of clothing and my guitar in the other hand. And so he put me on American Airlines and off I went. And Ray picked me up at the airport. And I stayed for 28 years. So, and I literally went there because I was not mommy material at the time. I was really hanging around with a very fast crowd. I was really, you know, I'm a musician, so naturally, you know, I was singing, songwriting, and I always thought, you know, I always thought that some of the, you know, a few drinks would really help, you know, before you get on stage, just two, of course, before you perform, because you don't want to be like, you know, out of it. But to write when I was home late at night, and I was a night owl. So I don't know how I ever got up and went to work, but I did somehow by the grace of God. But I would write, and I have some of my writing. And when I look back at it, I go, God, you have like different personalities. You're writing up this way, then you're writing down. Because I probably wouldn't do many, but I've written over 100 songs, and I've recorded so far 14 songs, and so I have a lot more songs to record. But I had a blast in California. I totally became, it took a while, but I became not a Jersey girl anymore. I mean, I still have that Jersey in me, I always will, but the people in San Diego have a different lifestyle completely. And I was always attracted to, I was raised with the best of the best. My father worked so many jobs to get us the best, to give us the best food, the best education, the best home, you know, private schools, beach clubs. And God bless him for that, because my father didn't even graduate from high school. He went to be a sophomore, and then he built a multi-million-dollar construction company. So with Henry Vaccaro, actually. So Henry got a hold of my dad when Henry was only 20 years old. And my father was a lot, you know, was older than him, of course. And my father really built that business with Henry. Wow. And they built hospitals, and they built the Parkview Seaview Terrace over on Wesley Lake, and they built libraries. And my father got out of building boats, which he did for 13 years and supported us on that. And so I grew up on the ocean fishing. and loved it. I'm a fisherwoman, and my dad was a lobster fisherman too, and he had 2 lobster fishing boats when he died, and my brothers inherited those. One sank, but the other one, they were selling lobsters to all the restaurants. They had something like 200 lobsters. I mean, I don't know. I had such an awesome life in Asbury, you know. I mean, it was like, it's a funny thing I want to mention because you had a question. When I was, before I even went to high school, my father, when I was young, I was about 13, 14, I had so much energy. Oh my God, I was always out on my bicycle. My father was like a drunken sailor, the way he talked. Where the hell, well, I can't curse on this, but where do you think you're going, Nancy? There would be a blizzard going on. I'm going out. Don't worry, Daddy. I'll be fine. Don't worry about it. And they would let us go. That's one thing about my parents. We had rules. 5 o'clock dinner, or you don't eat. You know, you have to be home by dusk. But other than that, we could my mother really, I think, wanted us out of the house. So we had to do our homework and then we could go, and that was it. But I was thinking about how my father said, okay, well, you can take piano lessons or ice skate. And both of my parents were ice skaters and roller skaters. My mother and father met. My mother was 16 years old when she met my dad. And she met him at a roller rink in Long Branch. And that's history. That's it. They were together their whole lives. So where was I? Getting back
Well,
to
let's why did you leave California and come back to New Jersey?
Oh yeah, well, I had a great run in California. It was awesome. I got involved in ministries. I worked for churches for 11 years. So I had 11 years of parochial school. Then I had 11 years in ministries. I worked for North Coast Presbyterian Church for 6.5 years. I was part of that ministry. And I was the office facilities kind of person there. And they would throw me all the people that came off the street to talk to and try to counsel and into a better lifestyle. And so I did that, and I loved that. And then I went to the old mission San Luis Rey, which is a 200-year-old mission in San Diego and Oceanside. And they're the Franciscan friars, the Franciscan monks. And I volunteered with them, and I was with them for, I guess, 11 years. It made, I guess, 5.5 and 6.5, whatever it was, it was 11 years. It was like 11 years, 22 years of religion. Let's put it that way. So that's the shortest way to say it. And I loved it. And I loved the church, the Mission San Luis Rey. And I was on the board of directors. I was the secretary for the board of directors. I was part of creating the stewardship committee. I hand wrote like between 180 and 200 birthday cards every month to all the parishioners. I was very involved in the Mission San Luis Rey, and it was awesome, and very involved in Bible studies and having them in my house. And I made mucho dinero and es muy necesario hablo español in California. And so I was the office facilities manager for a very large corporation there for many years before, after the church. I got all of my kind of knowledge from being with the church, and then I took it into the corporate world. And I became, I got myself a beautiful 5-bedroom house, and I lived on top of a hill, and I just lived a life, that it was such a blessing. It was all a blessing. I mean, it was all in the scheme of what I was supposed to experience in my lifetime. And now I came home, I gave it all up because I told my mother, I said, Mommy, and because my father died young. He died of cancer at 73 years old, which is young. And so I told my mother, Mom, if you ever need me, I'll come home. So my sister calls me and says, Mommy wants you to call her. I said, well, why didn't she call me? She would call me and I would call her, and I would talk to my dad every weekend and for years during his cancer, and came home, of course, to see him before he passed away. But I didn't come home very often. It was mostly, hello, it's Nancy. I'm so happy in California. I love California. So it's my second home, really. I came home within a few, 2 weeks. I gave 2 weeks notice at my job. I gave almost everything that I owned away. I gave my landscaper everything. He like won the lottery. He was from Mexico. I said, you can have everything, all the bedroom sets, the washers, dryers, refrigerator, the dishwasher, everything. Just take it all. And I gave a lot of my friends, and most of my friends were pretty wealthy anyway, but I collected art glass and raku for years. Sometimes I think about the pieces that I gave away and I go, wow, Nancy, you're always giving. But my song is I was just a boy, even though I'm really totally girl. I'm a girl all the way, very feminine. My song is I was just a boy giving it all away because that's the way I've been very generous my whole life. And I didn't care about material things. I had it all. It's not what enriches you. It's not what gives you peace of mind. It's not what, it's nice, but so what? The next day you go, well, that's nice, but what next? You know, I mean, it gets old. It's nice. And I'm really happy I experienced that in my life. But I'm happy now. I came home to take care of my mother. And that's why I'm back in New Jersey. And you know, the universe and my God had a different plan for me because I did not want to really come back to New Jersey because the weather here for me is very hard. I had severe asthma my whole life. So, and even as a singer, but as I'm getting older, it's getting worse. So I took care of my mother for a total of 8 years, but not in my apartment because I didn't have power of attorney. My other sister did, and it was her choice. And my mother too, she was really becoming, she didn't want me to go out. She didn't want anybody else to take care of her. She was falling. She was well into her 80s, my mom. She would have lived to be 100. I mean, she was really healthy, but she got pneumonia. She got pneumonia. She had fallen and went into the hospital. She probably got pneumonia in a hospital. And my mother died. She would have been 87 years old.
Wow.
So I came back to New Jersey when I was 55. And at that moment, I retired for life. I really retired then. So that way I've been really blessed too, because I didn't do anything with music or my own desires. I just took care of my mom. And I would go, you know, when she finally went into the atria, I would go there 3-4 times a week and talk to her all the time on the phone and be available for her and do things for her. And so after she passed away is when I met my female BFF forever, Trina, and she lives way up in, and I won't say where, but I met her in front of the Stone Pony, and she became my. We just celebrated. It sounds funny to say it this way, but she reminded me. She said, "You know, Easter Nancy is our 10-year anniversary as friends," and she's very young. I have a daughter her age. She's 50. Well, I can't tell you her age, but anyway, I have a daughter her age. My oldest daughter is her age, but I'm so young at heart. So I get along with really young people. Yeah, I get along with most any age people really, but I'm more attracted to young people because I have so much energy. Anyway, where am I now? I don't know.
So well, let me
I'm in
reel
another
you in.
ozone.
Let me reel you in. So you're back in Jersey, and
Yeah.
you then publish and write
Yeah,
the
I'm
song called Indecision.
I'm
which-
back in Jersey, and what happened is, like in California, I did my music in California. So I had recorded in, oh my God, I recorded, some of my songs were recorded at Quad Studio in Nashville, Tennessee. I missed having Gary Talent as my bass player by one day because he was one of the Nashville players. But I had Doc Holliday, who I pray that he's doing okay right now. I saw recently he was very sick. But so I did my music and I recorded in Maui. I recorded in Corpus Christi, Texas. I spent a month and a half in Corpus Christi with musicians that were my friends, and I put a group together, all different. I went to handpicked my musicians, and I was the executive producer of all of my music, except Doc Holliday produced 3 songs. And I actually that's when I got into going, well, I really want to produce my own music, because I had produced my own music 5 songs before I even produced music with him. But it was good because of him, it was very expensive, by the way, but because of him, Indecision hit like in one day. It was released, and I got called by Myra Channing in New York City, the talent buyer for the Joey Reynolds show. And he said, tell that girl, Nancy Ryan, to come up here and make sure she brings that guitar, because she's singing that song Indecision live on the radio. And I was so nervous that night. I was so nervous. And Steve Lusardi, my friend from 18, his nephew and I worked together too and did some recording. And he's into heavy metal.
Well, Nancy,
for that. But everything snowballed after that, because Trina and I, it's unstable. It says my internet connection's unstable.
yeah, you've been freezing a little bit,
Oh,
but
don't do that. Stay on.
so keep moving along, and we'll kind of move this along.
Like I said, Trina and I started going to all the clubs. From that night, I knew I wanted to be in broadcasting. So I left that studio knowing, and he said, wow, you are fabulous, Nancy. You got to come back on my show. And I said, thank you very much. And we went full circle, and Joey was on my show last year, but
That's great.
Still on in Florida. He does.
Can you kind of tell me and tell everybody how Ryan Rocks at Asbury Park Style got born, and how you started doing this?
It got born out of Joey Reynolds was my mentor into radio as a broadcaster. And I think it was after Superstorm Sandy, I did spiritual, I think it was podcasts. And actually Gene Pirro of Hamilton Radio. I had been already asked, though. I had been interviewing. I took Slim Chance and the Gamblers. I took you first. Then I took Slim Chance and the Gamblers. Then I took Ronald, who's in heaven, Ronald Davis, the admin for Good Morning with the Boss Club. I took him to promote Old Freehold Day. But I got to emphasize how much I owe to my muse, I call her someday, Trina, because we perused the clubs of Asbury Park for years. And I kind of, thank God we have another friend with us, because I would go around and I would get all the groups to come on my radio show as guests. So, and then when I left Hamilton after 2.5 years, people came to me. Willie Niles sends me an email. Will you do a show with me? I got a message from Gary Talent. Hey, Nancy, will you do a show with me? Unfortunately, I said, well, when? He goes, tonight. I go, but I can't even promote it. I should have done it and then promoted it. But anyway, I didn't do that. But it's been a trip. I mean, 9 years in radio. I've been nominated in the category of a top radio personality supporting live music at the Asbury Music Awards for the past 3 years. And as you know, well, my friend Scott Stamper and Meg, he is the founder of that organization, of the awards, the Asbury Music Awards. And when COVID came and everything happened and the bar closed down, I still don't even know if they're going to do the Asbury Music Awards again, because there haven't been people able to even entertain. So, but if they do, and I always think, well, they should just give me that. I should win anyway, because I was a DJ and an interviewer with Hamilton. But once I went on my own, I don't do music anymore. My shows are strictly live talk radio. So I'm in my own category. So I am nominating myself officially. Well, I'll wait till next year, my 10-year anniversary. When I'm 10 years in radio, I'm going to nominate myself as winning the award. Oh, and this is the best part. My shows have been welcomed. And thank you to all the admins of Bruce Springsteen's 22 group Springsteen pages. that have aired my radio shows for
Wow.
maybe almost 4 years now, whether it
Wow.
has to do with music or not. So that is like a true honor. That's a real
Wow.
honor. What a fabulous
By the
thing.
way, I was looking through pictures last night to come up with pictures for this, and there I found a picture of you and Bruce Springsteen.
Oh yes, yeah,
He
that
was
was
wearing
great.
sunglasses. That's a great picture. I'm gonna use it when I promote this.
Yeah, and actually, Trina was with me, and she was a huge fan. And I had met Bruce I met him many years ago when we were both single, Bruce and I. And I met him backstage at the grand opening of Big Man West, and it was on a New Year's Eve. So I have a whole story about that. As you can see, like I'm a redhead, and you can imagine, like, okay, I look like this now. Think about what I looked like at 32, before I went to San Diego. So I had a nice talk with Bruce about the night that we met. And so anyway, my brother and he were friends for life, and he loved Billy. And they played together at the Paramount every year at Life Day. And so I have many pictures of them and of Clarence of the Red Bank Rockers and my good friend Jeff Levine. But I want to talk about how you came, to a show with me, and then soon what happened to me was too, after I did that podcast, the spiritual podcast, and it snowballed after Joey Reynolds to where Rock and Tommy asked me to be on his show. I was on his show like 3 or 4 times, and you came with me a few times. And then I would take other people to his show. And he asked me to do a show before him, like do my own show. You can do whatever you want, write a show. So he encouraged me to write the show, and that's when I wrote the show. And then Danny Coleman, I was on his show, and Trina came down and came with me, and our friend came with us too, her mutual friend of hers. And he asked me to do a show before his show. And then I had Backstreet Radio. That's a Bruce Springsteen Backstreet there on Facebook. And so they were saying, Nancy, we think, we're thinking about it. We think we might be interested. And then they decided we want to be strictly Bruce music. We just want to be music. We don't want to do a talk show. So it just, it came the way it was supposed to. I really feel like you came, you took some pictures, you got the bug. You got into radio soon after that yourself. Then you went with New Jersey Discover TV, and now and you have evolved, and then you got a professorship. I mean, it's been such a joy for me to watch you and your career blossom into now Conversations with Calvin, that's worldwide and on YouTube. It's just really awesome if we follow our dreams, if we believe in,
Exactly.
if we don't give up, if we continue to keep going. And Lord knows we have all had our challenges in life and our sorrows in life and our losses in life, but we just get up every day and try to find something that just gives you that desire to be better, to be a better person, to learn something new. I could talk about you forever. I could.
Don't talk about me. This is not about me.
I know, but I could, and I loved it.
Well, I love you too, and it's been so special, Nancy. So you and I, you've done some acting.
Yes, I have. I actually was in shows when I was in grammar school. We would have a yearly show. And so I would sing in those shows. I tried to be a ballerina. I never even went to one ballet class. I was so humiliated. And they go, Nancy, you're really not, honey, you can't be a dancer. So my girlfriend and I, Michelle, my best girlfriend, and I don't know how old, she happened to have a sari with the fringe on top. So we literally got that sari, and it was brought to the school, Holy Spirit. And I don't know what grade we were in, 5th or 6th grade. And we sat on the sari and drove it around the stage. And we sang that song, Sari with the Fringe on Top, together. And so, and I was in the choir, of course. And we did masses, like, and I was at church, of course, all the time. I loved at church, so it was a big part of my life. And we would do masses in Latin, and we would do them in like 4 or 5 part harmonies. I got to do maybe a few solos, but even back then, I knew that I could sing. I knew that I could sing. That I knew. And I knew that I could write songs and melodies. So it's been a real trip for me and a real ride. And I've been blessed to work with some of the best in the industry. I want to look at your questions for a second.
Go ahead.
They were so good, and I'm going to start doing that. I mean, I did start doing it a little bit, but
Well, the acting, because you and I actually.
yeah. Well, I have been. Let's see. Back in the first thing I did was a documentary, and it was with a girl, Alessandra Lidicampi from Italy, and she flew in from Italy, and she had been doing in Italy and in other countries a documentary about Bruce Springsteen friends and fans. And of course, there's a Facebook page, but that's not her Facebook page, that particular page. So she flew in with her husband from Italy, and it was 9/11. And I had been in radio for quite a while by then, and I was promoting Michelle Moore. I had promoted Jared Clemens before he went with Bruce. I promoted Jake Clemens, which I continue to do. I met almost all the Clemens men. I promoted Nick Clemens. Nick is a good friend of mine. All the Clemens. I met Charlie Clemens. I've met all but one of the sons of Clarence. And they're all wonderful, wonderful, loving spirits. I love them all dearly. And I wish them all the very best. And they're good to me. I'm good to them. They're good to me. And that's the way I think life should be. That rhymed. I guess I am a songwriter. But so I did a documentary with Alessandra on the north end outside of Convention Hall, sitting on the boardwalk. And she said, "Oh my God, Nancy, that was the best one yet. Want to come with me? I'm doing Danny Clinch next." And Danny Clinch was inside. He had a little, he was showing his photography inside Convention Hall. And so that's the day, and I have a picture the day that I met Danny Clinch, and I had like a black cowboy hat on, and I have a picture of us together with all his photography behind us. So I was there for his interview. He did like a maybe 10-minute interview or a 15-minute interview. And then that night, the Alliance singers, Michelle Moore was not only did what is it called? Rocky Ground, or I always forget the name of that song that she sang. She was the only backup singer that really was given that blessing of singing a song with Bruce, other than Patty singing with Bruce. And so we became friends, and I love her, and we talk still to this day. But I promoted her, and I promoted the show, the 9/11 show. It was the Alliance Singers. And so Alessandra was there, and that night I was able to get for Alessandra not only Michelle Moore, who was a member of the E Street Band, to be in the video, but I said, "Kyle, hey, Kyle Brindle, my friend of years and years, knew him before I moved to California. He calls me Auntie Nancy." That's what my nieces and nephews call me, Auntie Nancy. So he calls me Auntie Nancy, and or Aunt Nancy. And so I said, "Kyle, do you want to, be in the documentary?" And he said, "Well, okay." And then he had this great place backstage, a little office in the back that we had never even seen. Most people only saw his office that was before backstage when you walked in on the side, but he had another office backstage. So we went in there, and he did an interview, and that was really cool that he was involved. And so that was my first documentary. The most recent, I did a film in California. We're going to be going back from New Jersey or to California. The first thing I did really in film was in California. I was an extra in a movie with Pierce Brosnan, and it was called The Heist.
Wow.
And I had a lot of different parts. And my friend who played a policeman, he got to be in the film. But as you know, in those films with their budget, they do enormous amounts of footage. and then they edit out. So I don't even think I saw myself in I'd have to look at it again to see if I was even in it. And I think I saw my car. I was driving my car because it was a bank robbery and they were trying to get over the border. And they said, Nancy, will you drive your car? I had a black Nissan Sentra. And so I was driving the car behind this big van that was trying to escape in the heist. Anyway, back in Jersey, I did another, I did a movie with Sean Guess and Bob Cleary, who is an actor. And that was great. And you were part of that. And my friend Anjanette Pinkston, who is awesome. I met her. She was in the film at the very last minute. She came to the door and I ad-libbed it. I go, oh, we have a new visit. I think we have a new member. And she came right over and we hugged each other and she was in the movie. But so I was in that and it was my first debut as an acting and speaking actor because I had never done a speaking part. I was extra in other movies, but always just in the background. So that was really awesome. And I loved doing that. And I was offered another movie with Anjanette in New York. And it was right along the same line. She said, I have your outfit, I have your police, and I did the police academy in California, by the way. And so I said, that would be a perfect part. I was supposed to tell everybody else, give them their daily work. And she said, I have your hat, your badge, and your shirt. That's all you need. But it was 98 degrees and the humidity was awful. And I would have had to film in Manhattan and in Long Island. And I had to turn it down and it broke my heart because I so wanted to be in it, but I couldn't be because of my health, because of my asthma. So anyway, she's doing wonderful. Anjanette Pinkston, go check her out, please. She's on Facebook and everywhere else. And you got to, of course, check Calvin out. Everybody knows Calvin. So let's see, where
So there's another aspect
I did something else. I did another documentary. I was asked to do another documentary. It was just recently. I did a documentary and it's called The History of Music in the State of New Jersey.
Wow.
And it was with Fulvio Ciceri.
Wow.
He is a well-known actor. He's been in many sitcoms. In fact, I just sent him a message, said, are you in the episode on Netflix, The Travelers? Because I could have sworn I'm watching this sci-fi thing about people from the future. And I could have sworn, oh my God, that looks like Fulvio.
Wow.
And so I haven't heard back from him, but I know he's a really busy guy. But I brought him and it was great. I mean, he knew that I knew a lot of people just from going on my, my radio show. You just scroll back on my blog and you're going to see all the people that have been on my show. So, and I don't mind that. I mean, that's good. That's good for me. I want people to know who I am, and in any case, I brought him, I was working at the time with my, I'll call him my partner in happiness and laughter, the one and only Kyle, KYL Beats or whatever they call him. Kyle, I call him Kyle Ward. I call him a prodigy. And so he was 24 and I was 74 when we recorded one of my first songs in his studio in Rumson. So I brought him there. Oh, and I was in well, I've been interviewed a lot. I'm not even going to go there. It's too many to mention, so I'm not going to talk about that. But Kyle, was in the movie, of course, and he did a great job. And he played, he plays every instrument but the keyboards, and he can even play keyboards, but he doesn't. And he sang on my second song. I made him sing on both of my songs. And so he is co-producer of both. I released a song about COVID. It was about COVID, Black Lives Matter, and pandemics emerge. No, wait, it was about, here we go. It's called Something Was Wrong, but it's a very upbeat, positive song. But it's about, instead of calling it COVID, I call it Pandemics Emerge. Instead of calling it Black Lives Matter, I say racism and hate makes the world a scary place. And then, of course, I talk about global warming too. but the song is so upbeat and positive, and I wrote it in 15 minutes. It was like divinely inspired. I woke up in the morning, I wrote the song, I took out my guitar, and within 15 minutes, I had the melody, and I recorded it like a few weeks later. And Kyle is on it as well. And my good friend Nick Clemens asked me to be on a show of his that was a 9-hour virtual show. They gave me prime time, 9 o'clock. His assistant called me, Kim, who I adore. And she said, Nancy, just call in at 9 o'clock, talk for 4 minutes, like I can really talk for only 4 minutes. Talk for 4 minutes about your radio show and your music. And what they did, and then she sends me an email. I'm doing a Pix mix. I'm like, okay. I didn't know what she was doing until it was done. And then so when it was done, she goes, check this out. We're going to be airing this at 9 o'clock after, after you talk. And I had promoted, I said, since you asked me to be in the show, of course I'm going to promote the show. If I had known about it, I would just do it. I don't have to be on the show. No, we want you. Nick said, you're on the show. I don't even think he heard the song. But and this is also why I know it's divine providence, because I was going through all my old photographs of Clarence, my own personal photographs. And I came up with photographs of him that I adored and that I blew up and I printed out in color. And they were sitting on my side table that I have a million things, as you know, in your office. It's like, okay, where is this now? It's somewhere on this table. But I had them sitting there. So, and one was his birth date and death date. And so that's what I started it out with. And then I put different pictures. What they did was absolutely awesome. And a lot of people questioned me, not a lot, but a few people questioned me. Well, what do you have to do with Clarence Clemens? Because what they did was they did a few pictures, like 2 or 3, and then up pops me with my hair down to here, just me. And it said something was wrong. Nancy Ryan underneath that, producer or something. Ryan Rocks Productions LLC. I don't know what it says. But anyway, and through the whole song, the song was almost 4 minutes long. And it starts off with these bubbles that are coming up pink. And then it comes up with Clarence and me. And then my pictures coming up. And I'm like, wow, what? Something was wrong comes up. Then there's more of the E Street Band and Clarence. Then there's pictures of my album, Ryan Rocks, pops up. And I'm going, what did they do? And then there's more pictures of Clarence, mainly Clarence. And then there's Nick and me at the press box in Asbury Park, like that was done 11, 12 years ago, and of us hugging. And it says the Nick Clemens Band or whatever, Nick Clemens on it, or it says his name, Nick Clemens. And it's awesome. And as I said to her, can I use that? I mean, I want to use that when I ever promote it. Now it will be in December. It'll be a year. I haven't even promoted it. So and because of your influence, and you're one of my biggest muses, you're my male muse. Trina's my female muse. God's my, all, everything. I have to put that in first. So God is my all first. And then certain people are so special in my life.
By the way,
there's too many to mention.
We've got time for one more aspect of Nancy, one more question to ask you as we kind of wind down. I want to ask this, but in the title, I said, you are a humanitarian, and you're involved in so many different causes. You're so involved in, we've overlapped on some of those things. But right. Talk about some of your humanitarian things. I
will, and it's because of you. It's because of you, Calvin, in New Jersey anyway, not in like California, humanitarianism acts and of kindness for nothing in return but joy in my heart. Because of you, you sent me a message and said, I have 1 ticket for Destiny's Bridge at the Twin Rivers Theater. And I can't think of anyone that would I would rather have come and see that. And I was good friends too with Rosemary Conti for a few years. And she remembered me from before I moved. So I came that night and you were on the dais. And I did stand up and ask some questions of Minister Steve because I had been in ministries in California. And I met Minister Steve in person after the show. And he said, those are some good questions that you asked, Nancy. And the thing is that we became close friends and have been friends ever since, actually. And I started my radio show as a giving back to the community. So my first 4 shows were solo half-an-hour podcasts about Superstorm Sandy, if I'm correct about that. I'm not always right on my dates. I have to think about the date or the time or how old my children were. I don't know. I'm getting old now, but I started it with not-for-profits. So my first not-for-profit was the Nixons, who did so many fabulous things. And my second guest was Minister Steve Brigham of Tent City. And I've been promoting him ever since, so I have 10, actually I had to drop 1 because they don't have their 503c anymore. And I've been trying, I need to get 1 more because I like to have 10, but I have 9 of the best not-for-profits in the state of New Jersey that I not only promote after every single radio show, but I promote them with little checks in the mail, and I promote them with car donate. I stick a bunch of things in the car, and I knit Afghans and hats, and I knit, I guess, for the homeless. And I'm not bragging, I'm just saying this is what makes me so happy and keeps me young, is I crocheted. I learned to crochet a speed stitch, and I had so much yarn, and I crocheted blankets, Afghans, which I have yours. It's in my car still. I made 15, I guess, for the homeless. And I made Minister Steve a queen size one that's to die for. And when he saw it, he just couldn't even believe it. He said, it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. And I said, well, that's what I do. I can't always just sit. I have to, if I'm watching TV, like I'm making Afghans. So, so that gives me great joy. And I made some actually for the vets that are homeless. I made it with camouflage, all different camouflage through it. They're all very comfortable and they're beautiful and they're cozy and they'll fit around a whole person's body and they're warm. So that has given me great joy doing that. And so I'm the beginning of the show, and I do have a few sponsors that I barter with because I said, I've been paying now to do my radio show, which, it does cost money to be in this business, and I'm not getting paid by anyone. And it's all right because I want to do this. But I said, let me think. I think I know a way I can barter. So I did barter with a dentist, and that worked out very well. And then I bartered, let's see, what else did I barter? I bartered, well, anyway, I have 3. Oh, I have another dentist now because that dentist, anyway, I have 2 dentists, and that was great. And then I have Gregory Peck, who is, I should name them all, I guess. But I won't, because just listen to my radio show. I mention them after every show, the 3 that I have. So I do have 3, and I like that because there's no exchange of money. There's just exchange of goods. And I think that's going to happen more and more as we evolve in this world, because a lot of people don't have a lot of money today. They have time. Well, I was brought up that way anyway. It's your time, it's your ties, your time, and your talent. That's what you have to give people. And I think one of the most valuable things that a person really can give you, for me anyway, is your time. And what I'm really working on, that I have to work on, because I have OCD, and I'm very open about that, and my brain is running faster. There's something wrong with my brain, runs faster than or my mouth runs faster than my brain. I don't know, wait, where are my teeth? I have to, oh, here they are, hold on. I wanted to do this before we end the show. So these are my chatter teeth, and I've had signs up saying, let the guests talk, you know, because I will talk.
Well, you are a guest here.
Well, that's true, but I mean, when I'm the host, I do
Yeah,
it.
well, you are a guest here, and actually, we've got to wind down
I
because
know. Can I do my chatter teeth though?
you can show the chatter teeth, and that's a good way to kind of end this.
I encourage everyone. My last thing, I want to first of all thank you enormously because I know I have put you off. I've said, no, when the timing is right. And actually, the timing just wasn't right for me. Things
Fine.
just were going on with my asthma. And then I lost the COVID was going on. I was trying to care for my brother through cancer. Well, I did was taking care of him through cancer. And he beat it, but then COVID got him. So just going through life things and trying to hang on to having the energy to do my radio shows, and then finding out about my breathing asthma's developed into something else. But I'm good. So this is what I would like to do is thank you so much for having me as a guest on Conversations with Calvin.
Thank you, Nancy.
Because I don't even know how you do what you do. Because, oh, and I do want to say one thing. I do want to say something about one of my not-for-profits because I just promoted it last night, and it's called Rami's Heart, and it's a woman that I met, and I had her on my radio.
I interviewed her because of you. You know that.
What?
I interviewed her because
Oh,
of
right,
you.
right. And yeah, and I hope a lot of other people that you will interview because of me. But she started a thing with a rock and a heart, a yellow heart on the beach. And 250 rocks were there with names of people that lost their relatives to COVID-19. And her brother died in May of 2020. And it was her only brother, her younger brother. She's a wonderful girl. So on the 17th of this month, they finally found a place for the installation because people were wanting to send their rocks and they were all on the beach in Bradley Beach. And I said, you got to get these rocks off the beach. They're going to corrode. So they're having it at Alair State Park, I guess. Anyway, I did the promo. So you just go to Ryan, it's on everywhere. It's on Ryan Rocks Asbury Park Style. It's on my Nancy Ryan page. It's on my Inside and Outside the Fabulous Grand Arcade page. And it's on it's on about 25 groups all over, New Jersey. So you'll see it. And if you can go and support her, I'm so happy because it's COVID. It's not just memorializing those that died from COVID, like we memorialize those that died at 9/11, but it's also a scientific / a museum. So it's about this virus and how it's more of an education. Because, let's face the facts, we are not look, we may be done with this or want to be done with this virus, but it's not done with us. Unfortunately, it's not done with us yet. So we need lots of prayers. And with that, I'm going to say, wow, can I ever talk?
And I want to thank you. We've been planning this for a long time. I want to thank you for the 10 years of friendship. And of course, I'm inviting you back. There's so much more to you, which we will uncover. But anyway, Nancy, thank you. It's been a great 10 years. It's been a great 9 years with your radio show, and to be continued. Thank you, Nancy.
Yes. And folks, please go to Kyle Ward's website because you will see both of our most recent releases. And just go to my album, Ryan Rocks It. It's reverbnation.com/Nancy Ryan. You'll see me on the rocks with my guitar. It's an awesome album. I never even promoted it. It's a country rockabilly. My last releases are very hip because I had that very young energy. And it was such, how we met was through I met him years ago and he was with Taylor Tote because I promote the Taylor Tote band and he was the lead guitarist. But Kyle Ward, he is just a phenomenal guy. He was just in a movie called Thriller, so I'm giving him a shout out. And he wrote 4 of the original songs in it, and he won an award for best song, instrumental song in that movie. So this kid's going places for sure. his mom is Lynn Warden. She's with the, she's the editor with the Twin Rivers Times, I believe, and also a wonderful person. And her husband is a very nice guy too. But I'm going to end this with
Go ahead.
this is my family song for me is, you talk too much, you worry me to death. You talk too much, whatever. And so this is it. And this is
Oh, that's great. That's great, Nancy.
so
All right,
good night,
I'm
everybody.
gonna cut it off. Thank you, Nancy.
Oh my God, thank you so much. I'm so happy that we got this done.
You did
It
it.
was a little challenging to start with, but
Thank you.